Next, we have our legislative update with Matt Hill. Matt serves as an information specialist and federal lobbyist to the Intertribal Timber Council. He previously worked in the United States Senate for 10 years, focusing on tribal and forest management issues for Senator Gordon Smith of Oregon. Matt is a graduate of Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. He currently resides in his hometown of Glide, Oregon. Matt?
Good morning. I'll try to squeeze a 20-minute presentation into 5 minutes, but I guess we're used to doing more with less here. So I don't have a lot of graphics in my presentation. I apologize. I was trying to squeeze a lot of information in there. This is actually a picture from when ITC was briefing Congress and the department on IFMAT 3 10 years ago. I remember that meeting very well. Dr. Sessions, Phil Rigdon. We were about an hour into the briefing with the department, and Assistant Secretary Washburn asked Dr. Sessions, he's like, "What do I call you? John, doctor?" And he's like, "You can call me by my first name, Professor." I'm going to fly through some of this because it's ground that's already been plowed, but just a recap that, FY24 BI Indian Forestry is looking at $3 million cut. The president's FY25 budget proposes a $3 million increase, which should be flat, which in real terms is a reduction in funding. We're moving in the wrong direction, and it's not a good trend. Cody, ITC president, was just in D.C. and testifying in front of the House Appropriations Committee and really echoing IFMAT's recommendation of making a historic investment in increasing BIA funding for forestry by nearly $100 million to bring it on parity with other federal forests. Farm Bill, I'm going to spend a little more time here. So every 5 years or so, Congress writes what's called a Farm Bill. And one way to think of Congress is it's kind of like a train station with very large trains moving out of it very slowly. And one of those trains is the Farm Bill. And people try to attach new cars to it and try to load it up because they know it's leaving the station. And so the Farm Bill's really become more than a farm bill. It becomes a vehicle, legislative vehicle, to do a lot of forest policy, particularly with the U.S. Forest Service, because Forest Service is in the Department of Agriculture, so it's a close enough tie to stick it onto the Farm Bill. I have so much in here, it's so small a font, I can barely read it myself, I'm sorry. But I can give you a high-level summary. So for the last couple of years, there was zero action on the Farm Bill. Neither chamber was really doing anything, and then all of a sudden, both chambers seem to be very active. So the House has put out kind of a high-level conceptual document showing what it wants to do in the Farm Bill. Very little on forestry, very little on tribal forestry. The one thing that does appear to be in there is their intent on fixing the Good Neighbor Authority issue, which in the last Farm Bill, the same cast of characters screwed up the wording that precluded tribes and counties from fully participating in the Good Neighbor program, so they're going to fix that. In the Senate, there's a lot more. I should note that ITC has been working with the Native Farm Bill Coalition on a lot of these recommendations to Congress on the Farm Bill. For those of you taking a picture of this slide, you're going to have to really zoom in to catch the text. So one thing that's in the Senate bill, which is an ITC recommendation, which is really important, and it's a tool that has kind of existed, but this is going to ramp it up a little bit. It would require the Secretary of Agriculture to consult with tribes and affected Alaska Native corporations when developing land use plans. And the existing statute in FLPMA requires coordination with tribes in development of like forest management plans. It's rarely been used. So this kind of ramps that up a little bit, gives tribes a little more traction in working with the Forest Service on coordinating and ensuring that forest management plans are consistent with what tribes are trying to do nearby. So that's a good thing. Tribal forest management, there's a change, just changing the name of the Tribal Forest Management Demo Project. The Good Neighbor Authority also being fixed in the Senate bill. We're working on expanding TFPA to one more of a permanent program with the 638 demo, expanding the 638 authority across USDA. And then Senator Murkowski recently, after I wrote this, she's working on legislation, she's from Alaska, that would expand TFPA to get rid of the adjacency requirement, expand its scope to include ANCs up in Alaska, which have a hard time participating in TFPA, authorizing specific funding for TFPA projects, and then also authorizing some of that funding to be used on the tribal side of the boundary, not just on the Forest Service side. So a lot of play with TFPA in the Farm Bill, and I do expect it to get enacted in some form by the end of the calendar year. On the forest management wildfire side, outside of the Farm Bill, a couple bills to watch. Senator Wyden in the Senate's been working on the National Prescribed Fire Act. This has been on and off for several years. ITC's been working with him on it. A lot of provisions in there to just make doing more prescribed fire easier for federal agencies in terms of smoke permitting, environmental analysis, several mentions of cultural burning, prescribed fire by tribes, and I know that many tribes have been working with his office as well, so it hasn't been introduced yet, but we'll see it soon. Congressman Westerman of Arkansas, the only professional forester in Congress, he's the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee. He has legislation out, ITC testified on it, that is trying to make it easier to do large fuels reduction projects in kind of a WUI situation, streamlining environmental authority. ITC's working with him to try to expand that authority to apply to TFPA and other projects like that. It also expands Good Neighbor Authority to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Service, and fixes the GNA to include tribes. I think we've covered firefighter pay plenty. Just a couple notes, since many tribes are working with federal agencies on their side of the fence. One big thing that's happened recently is the BLM finalized its conservation and landscape health rule. I would just encourage tribes to take a look at that. If you're in BLM territory, talk to your local district offices about what that might mean. It authorizes restoration leases on federal lands, and tribes are specifically authorized to participate in that. So it'd be interesting to pursue what that might mean in terms of forest management restoration. On the Forest Service, Cody mentioned this a little bit, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. One thing ITC is tracking is the National Old Growth Amendment. We've provided comments. It's a NEPA process, so we are at the end of scoping, and the next step is to see a draft environmental impact statement. ITC, like I said, we provided comments. Some of those are here, but a lot of those were procedural, just urging the Forest Service to engage better with individual tribes, and so we encourage all of our member tribes to be looking at this both at the national and, if you're in the Northwest Forest Plan area, at the regional and local forest level. Tribes can, it is a NEPA process, so tribes can request cooperator status, government-to-government consultation at either the national, regional, or local forest level. Subsequent to that is the Northwest Forest Plan Amendment, same idea, just at the regional level. I'll also note that there's a national federal advisory committee that has tribal participants in it, and I know there's been breakout sessions, and there will continue to be, so I encourage tribes in the Northwest Forest Plan area to participate in that and provide some feedback. So That's just a quick overview of what we're looking at, and I know I'm eating into Reed's time and want to hear what he has to say. So thank you very much, and if you have any follow-up questions, just grab me at the break. Thank you.